Steppe geoglyphs. In 2007, economist and amateur archaeologist Dimitriy Dey was searching Google Earth satellite images for pyramids or similar configurations in Kazakhstan when he spotted something that continues to baffle archaeologists. Visible only from above, Dey discovered a set of huge, mysterious geoglyphs, colossal earthworks, made up of at least 260 mounds, trenches, and ramparts arranged in 5 basic shapes. One of the most prominent structures, and the first that Dey found, was the Ushtogay Square, which measured almost 250,000 meters in area. It was made up of dots and crisscrossed by a dotted X. At first, Dey thought the earthen formation might be a leftover Soviet installation, perhaps a part of one of Nikita Khrushchev's experiments to cultivate land for bread production. However, after continuing his investigation the next day, he came across a second gigantic figure, a 3-legged swastika-like form. Before the year was over, Dey had found 8 more squares, circles, and crosses, hinting at mysterious origins. The earthen constructions were found in the Turgai Trough area of Turgai in northern Kazakhstan, and archaeologists have estimated that they were created about 8,000 years ago. Still, people have yet to learn who built them or why. The only humans living in this region of Kazakhstan during the time were nomadic Stone Age tribes from the Mayan culture. The tribes flourished in Kazakhstan from 7000 BC to 5000 BC. However, they were nomadic by nature. Therefore, scientists don't believe they would have stayed in place for the time required to build the structures. The geoglyphs are so large that they cannot be adequately seen from the ground, and their creators would have been considering how they looked from the air. There's no clear indication of whether the structures were created for art, communication, or perhaps some sort of ritual. NASA is now involved in surveying the geoglyphs, and only time will tell what they may uncover. One thing is certain: the answer to who built them could give us a deeper understanding of early humanity. Saudi Arabia stone gates. When neurologist and amateur archaeologist Abdullah al-Said traveled to the bleak lava field of Harat Khaibar in 2004, he and his colleagues found walls of stone stacked about 1 meter high. It wasn't until 2008, when he looked at the same area on Google Earth, that he realized the true extent of these stone structures. Named gates, due to their shape resembling a traditional farm gate, the structures were found in clusters, some measuring up to 500 meters long. After his discovery, al-Said contacted David Kennedy, professor of archaeology at the University of Western Australia, to aid in uncovering the true meaning of the gates. Talking of the structures, Kennedy said, quote, "They are in extremely bleak, arid areas, very inhospitable. There's not much vegetation, and you wouldn't think that our species would want to spend very much time there at all. But when you get up 500 feet or more, suddenly you can see that there are literally thousands of these stone-built structures." We think of Saudi Arabia as a desert. Still, there's a substantial archaeological treasure trove out there that remains to be identified and mapped. Recently, researchers examining the deserts of Saudi Arabia have found around 400 other previously unreported stone structures in the Arabian desert, likely built by nomadic tribes as far back as 7,000 years ago. The most well-known of these are basalt boulder structures known as kites, which were first identified by air pilots in the 1920s and named after their kite-like shape. Archaeologists think ancient nomadic tribes used the kites, which can be more than 1,600 meters long, for hunting. The structure's 2 long converging walls would funnel stampedes of gazelles into the body of the kite, where they would be slaughtered. Unlike the kites, the stone gates don't appear to be structures used for hunting or living. It remains a mystery as to what the purpose of these stone structures would have been. Mayan settlement. Combining his love of the night sky and a childhood fascination with the Mayan doomsday calendar, 15-year-old William Gaddery of Quebec used satellite imagery and star charts to uncover what could be one of the largest Mayan settlements that ever existed. Gaduri examined 22 Mayan constellations from the ancient Madrid Codex texts to find the settlement. He learned that if he projected the constellations onto a map of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, the shapes matched perfectly with the locations of 117 Mayan cities. Examining one last constellation, he noticed that one star did not match up to any mapped Mayan city. He obtained satellite images from the Canadian Space Agency and projected them onto Google Earth. This overlay enabled him to find what he predicted: geometric shapes, indicating that an ancient Mayan city with a large pyramid and 30 buildings once stood in the region. Dubbed Ka'akchi, meaning firemouth, by Gaduri himself, the proposed hidden city is buried deep in the Yucatan jungle and hidden beneath dense vegetation. Although well-intentioned, there have been many criticisms of Gaduri's hypothesis by scholars. Anthony Aveni, an astronomer and anthropologist who is widely considered the father of archaeoastronomy, has said that trying to determine a comparison between a modern star map and a large number of ancient man-made features is simply an act of creative imagination. Although the cosmos was often involved in patterning how ancient structures were built on Earth, it is not the degree of precision claimed by Gaduri. Similarly, Francisco Estrada Belli, who specializes in Maya archaeology and remote sensing, notes that while the satellite imagery Gaduri used can show anomalies in the plant canopy, remote sensing tools like LiDAR are still needed instead, as they can see through the vegetation to give a better idea of what's on the ground. Cave of Ancestors. In 2008, Professor Lee Berger from Witwatersrand University in Johannesburg began using Google Earth to map some 130 known caves and 20 fossil deposits that he and his colleagues had identified in South Africa over the past several decades. With the help of the navigation features and high-resolution satellite imagery in Google Earth, Berger found that he could locate additional new fossil deposits by learning to identify what the cave sites looked like in satellite images. He went on to find almost 500 previously unidentified caves and fossil sites in Africa, even in areas that had already been extensively explored. Berger's work in uncovering one vast array of caves led to an even more remarkable discovery. In one cave, 130 bones comprising 2 skeletons, a juvenile male and an adult female, were found preserved in a hard concrete-like substance known as calcified clastic sediment. The skeletons, discovered in the Cradle of Humankind World Heritage Site in South Africa, were part of a new species of hominids dating between 1.78 and 1.95 million years old. Named Australopithecus sediba, this new species was deemed one of the most significant paleoanthropological discoveries in recent times. The species appears to have long arms like an ape, short, powerful hands, and long legs capable of striding and possibly running like humans. Also nearby were the articulated skeletons of a saber-toothed cat, antelope, mice, and rabbits. Scientists worldwide hailed the find as significant in understanding the evolution of humans. Google Earth and other technologies will likely play a role in other future discoveries. Apamea looting. Sometimes Google Earth can uncover ancient discoveries that have gone missing. Such is the case of Apamea, an ancient city on the banks of Syria's Orontes River. A crossroad of various regional trade routes, it grew in size around 300 BC after the division of Alexander the Great's Macedonian Empire and the rise of the Seleucid kings. The city later became part of the Roman world. It featured many pieces of impressive architecture, including a great colonnade that ran almost 2 kilometers and a monumental theater with a seating capacity of over 20,000 people. The population of Apamea in 6 AD was at least 130,000, but could have been as high as 500,000. It was a large cosmopolitan metropolis, which would have been significant during its prime. The modern town of Khalaf al-Madik is located near what was once Apamea. By 2011, it it was caught in the crossfire of the Syrian civil war. Although the Syrian government continued to control the high citadel, rebels took the lower portions of the town. In March 2012, the Syrian army shelled the rebels in Kalat al-Madik for over 2 weeks, resulting in many soldiers and civilians being killed. Due to this, all forms of archaeological site protection of Apamea fell apart, and many of the war-torn town's population, faced with limited economic choices, were forced to turn to the ancient city's antiquities. The result was Apamea's complete gutting and looting, and the consequences were devastating. What was once a preserved ancient city was a landscape of looters' holes. When significant looting happens, it is necessary to quantify the loss. In the case of Apamea, its position as a war zone meant that this was virtually impossible for researchers and investigators. Technology like Google Earth was able to be used to quantify the scale of loss in the site, with the numbers used as a starting point for research. In 2017, Al-Masdar News published satellite photographs revealing the hundreds of holes dug by looters looking to find ancient artifacts that they could sell on the black market. Apamea is an example of how war can devastate a country's people and significant cultural landmarks central to its identity. Yes, this is our new channel. Subscribe to the new Dark 5 Ancient Mysteries for more of antiquity's greatest discoveries. We created this channel to tell more amazing stories and examine unexplained clues about our ancient past. The original Dark 5 channel will continue as is,